Dear friends, welcome to this beautiful celebration. Welcome to this extraordinary gathering where we come together to celebrate the spirit of innovation, dedication, and profound insight. Today we stand at the crossroads of history to honor individuals who have forged a path into the realm of prenatal sciences, illuminating the depths of human existence before conception, beyond birth. The realm of prenatal sciences has undergone a profound transformation over the last 100 years. From all different disciplines, the ripples of information, new discoveries, and findings have touched us all. In the Prenatal Sciences Partnership, we honor transdisciplinarity. We find unity in our differences, spanning continents, languages, academic, professional, cultural, and religious backgrounds. Our diversity enriches our journey. While our emphasis may vary, our hearts beat to the rhythm of shared conviction. We believe in the profound impact of prenatal and perinatal experiences and strive for better health for both the growing child and the evolved adult. Amidst the vibrant atmosphere of the 2022 Global Congress, whispers of a remarkable concept began to take shape. The creation of a sanctum to immortalize the spirit and principles of those who have shown the seeds of the earliest developmental paradigm, stretching back to the roots in the 1920s. Posthumous awards were tenderly presented at the Global Congress. The names of Peter Feder Freiberg, David Chamberlain, Gabriella Ferrari, Lloyd DeMoss, Joseph Chilton Pearce, and Otto Rank echoed with reverence. Amidst the symphony of recognition, Ludwig Janus and Thomas Verne, John R.G. Turner and Troy G.N. Turner, Grigori and Catherine Breckman, William Emerson, Carlton Terry, and Agnes Sereb received their deserved accolades. These luminaries, who had enriched the realms of psychology and human understanding, were embraced by the warm embrace of honor. The aspirations of these early conversations were nothing short of transformative. The Hall of Honor's conception was envisioned not merely as a repository of past wisdom, but as a radiant beacon of light that would illuminate the way for future seekers of knowledge. The goal was twofold: to preserve the teachings of trailblazers and to catalyze novel explorations in uncharted territories of understanding. Thus, the Hall of Honor was conceived, a sanctuary of recognition, celebration, and perpetuity. Our collective vision finds form in the Hall of Honor Committee, composed of these people who amplify the voices of pioneers. Thomas Verne of Canada, Ludwig Janus of Germany, Kate White and Michael Tritt of the United States, Nesir Karabekir of Turkey, and me of grace. As we embark on this Hall of Honor award ceremony of recognition, let us be reminded of the works of Ray Castellino, Marty Glenn, Julie Gerland, Jaap van der Waard, and Wendy Ann McCarthy. Their contributions have not only expanded our understanding, but also enriched the tapestry of human wisdom. From the intricate melodies of the songs, specially composed and performed by Rita Rickhoff, accompanied by Hans Tripp of the Netherlands, and Grigori and Catherine Breckman, that resonate with the echoes of time. The Breckmans are in Israel, and despite the war now happening in Israel, along with the other war in Ukraine and elsewhere, they send a message of peace. The poignant cello and piano pieces by Aeneas Floros and Inna Hanchari of Greece, our 15-year-old artists that evoke the heart's emotions. The heart-to-heart readings of Dimitris Pharmakidis, accompanied by Ibe Hassel of Norway. The artistic contributions of Stathis Stavraetos, an art student of Greece, to accompany the Hall of Honor Awards, the technical support of Michalis Panos of Greece, and the positive energy of our sponsors. Each moment of this ceremony is designed to embody the essence of discovery. So let's immerse ourselves in this celebration, a celebration of brilliance, innovation, and the unyielding pursuit of truth. With each award presented, we pay homage not only to the accomplishments of our honorees, but also to the enduring power of knowledge and the boundless potential of the human spirit. Thank you for being a part of this momentous occasion. Let us join hands in gratitude as we embark on this journey of recognition and inspiration. May the spirit of discovery and the flame of curiosity forever guide our way. Thank you. Our dear Rainier Phillips, President of APA, then our dear Cola Brunner, President of ISPPM, and then Susana Lopez of the Prenatal Alliance are sending you the greetings and are here to follow. Thank you.
I am Raylene Phillips, and as APA's current president, I am here today to represent APA in honoring the 5 individuals being inducted into the Hall of Honor for their significant contributions to prenatal and perinatal sciences. Each one has shared in their own unique ways a lifetime's worth of experience and wisdom on how to improve the care we give to pregnant mothers, fathers, and the entire family, and how to honor, respect, and nurture babies before and after birth. I personally want to thank Wendy Ann McCarty for finding a way into my email inbox many years ago with an offer to learn about welcoming consciousness in babies. Although it could have been anyone, it was Wendy who first introduced me to prenatal and perinatal sciences and birth psychology. So thank you, Wendy. On behalf of APA, I congratulate each of the inductees today and say a huge thank you for the ways in which you have changed the world and made it a better place in which to welcome new little human beings. Thank you and congratulations.
My name is Kola Bronner, and as president of ISPPM, I'm glad to welcome you all to this ceremony of All of Honor. The International Society of Pre and Perinatal Psychology and Medicine research since over 50 years about the consciousness of the unborn child, the impact of birth for the rest of our life, and the importance of the very early bonding between mother and the unborn baby, and the father, and of course, the siblings. Many thanks and appreciating to the Committee of All of Honor, who honor pioneers of the pre and perinatal field second time today. Thank you to Ludwig Janus, Olga Guni, Nisha Karabicki, Thomas Werni, Kate White, Michael Truth, and Carlton Terry. Founded during the Global Conference 2022 of Prenatal Science Partnership, they started to present these awards to experts who improve with their knowledge and teachings of the early phase of human life and make the world more rich. I wish us all that this ceremony empower our work over the world. Thank you. Enjoy.
Dear participants, greetings from Prenatal Alliance. We are a non-governmental international organization based in Norway. It is our pleasure to welcome you all to this Hall of Honor award ceremony of appreciation organized by Olga Guni, the Prenatal Science Research Institute, and all the great organizations that have given their support to honor these distinguished pioneers in the field of prenatal sciences. For those who do not know us, Prenatal Alliance was established by 15 people from around the world and has been facilitating educational materials to promote awareness about the relevance of the beginning of life, from conception, pregnancy, birth to breastfeeding, for the quality of human civilization. It is indeed a great pleasure for me to be with you all, to represent Prenatal Alliance and be part of this great ceremony.
a time span from our first breath to our last is everything we have, and yet nothing we can hold on to. Little Dragon explained to the lady who was worried about getting old. What do we have then? The lady wondered in a trembling voice. Our life to experience, our minds to create, and our hearts to love.
And the first award goes to It is my honor to introduce the speaker to receive this award on behalf of Ray Castellino, whom I feel like, in my life, as a practitioner trained by him, reflects the words of Oguguni, the brilliance, innovation, and the pursuit of truth. I would like to introduce to you Sandra Castellino. She and Ray were married over 3 decades, raised 2 amazing children together, and she supported his work as the administrator of his various undertakings from the time he was a polarity therapist through chiropractic, and then developing the pre and perinatal work. She continues to support this work with now Mary Jackson and Tara Blasco for the Castellino Training Corporation. So please, Sandra, go ahead.
Hi. I am so honored to be in this company of so many of you, and thank you. That was beautiful, Kate. It really touched my core. Well, thank you all for honoring Ray. So I want to highlight just one aspect of Ray's work, which was his collaboration. So many of you, he have touched his life, and many of you he has collaborated with. So when I looked back and counted, Ray had started at least 5 different organizations. He was a polarity therapist. In fact, that's how we met, at a polarity class. And we both established separate practices in the Bay Area where we lived. We had a small group of us that would meet once a month to discuss what we were learning and share. So right from the beginning, this was a collaborative effort. And then he helped start APTA, the American Polarity Therapy Association. He was the first vice president and the second president. When he was practicing polarity, there was a whole lot of trouble for many people trying to get a license. You had to go to massage school, which was so not the right place to be. So he started what became the Massage and Body Workers Licensing Exam. He got together with Roffers and people from other traditions, and they created something so people could do something beyond, just massage. I mean, massage is wonderful. I actually practiced massage until I studied polarity. Later, he studied with so many people. He was so excited when he found out that William Emerson had been working for decades working with babies to help them come into this world in a way that would recognize the journey they'd been through and support them to integrate whatever had happened. And pretty soon, William, after studying with Ray for a while, William said, well, let's collaborate, let's teach together. Because Ray brought in the body work. He had gone to chiropractic school because he knew that Dr. Stone was an osteopath and knew cranial work. And in those days, that's all you could do. There was no biodynamic cranial sacral training. That came later. There was just, if you were a chiropractor, you could learn this. So he went to chiropractic school. And he started an organization called Alliance for Transforming the Lives of Children. Once he studied with William, he wanted to do something with the babies, and he found Wendy. And they co-founded BEBA. And Wendy was not only the therapist who had the experience with children, but she also took on the administrative role because that was not Ray's forte. It was so wonderful. He had a way of finding people who would support that part. I was one of the main ones, so I know that one very well, and it's so appreciated. Later, when Mary Jackson came into his life, he said, okay, now I want to know what it's like to be with the pregnant couples. So they started About Connections so that they could work with the families before the birth. And it changed the way the births happened. And then they worked afterwards and developed a whole thing called supported attachment for helping the babies crawl up to the breast. And and then, finally we actually turned what he was doing into a Castellino Training Corporation. His vision was to learn, to collaborate, and to mentor. And he was constantly trying to find structures that would allow for people to find their own inner strength, to integrate those early experiences in a way that they weren't charged anymore. So he created womb surrounds. He created for adults so that the baby in all of us could be addressed one at a time with the support of the group. His work was all about being in a group. Families were groups, womb surrounds were groups, trainings, of course, were groups. And his supervision model that he created was group supervision. He did private work. He just felt the group work was so much more powerful. So along the way, there were so many people that were part of this, this exploration. And I was privileged. I couldn't study with Ray. He was my husband. So when he and Anna started teaching together, Anna Chitty in Body into Being, I put that together. I said, you two are like teaching the same thing. Let's get you together and I'll organize it. And I actually ended up taking one of the Body into Beings, which was such a resource and learning experience for me. So he learned from the babies. I mean, when he and Wendy started Beva, it was to learn from the babies. What did they need? What worked? They had ideas because they, you know, all these other pioneers who've been working, but, and working in the womb surrounds, he started with 10 people in 2 days. He got slower and slower and longer and went more deeply, so that by the end, it was like 5 or 6 people in 5 days. You know, I have I'm not tracking time. Can somebody give me a time check? When we get close. From the beginning, even before he knew about this, he knew how to support birth because we had a baby. You know, when I was in labor, he made the biggest difference. We had midwives at home with 2 friends who were both in the healing arts. Ray, when I was, you know, I was making a lot of noise. At the beginning, I was screaming, and then somebody gave me arnica, and I went to ohming, but still it was very high pitched. And Ray would match my pitch and bring it down very slowly. He just came to where I was, and together we came down. And that happened, you know, as the contractions were, you know, getting harder. That's what he did to help me during the contraction. And then in between the contractions, he held me using a polarity technique we call the perineal treatment that totally relaxes you. So the midwives were really surprised how fast Sasha came out. And, you know, when we first came to Santa Barbara, we actually taught a class with all the different things we had learned from doing that birth. So, and I got Sasha's permission to talk about that today. He was really, well, this collaboration, one of the things that I wanted to share is about layers of support. So Ray was super into layers of support. So Mary tells a story, Mary Jackson. They were collaborating with about connections, which I don't think I mentioned. Did I do that? Yeah. Oh, yes, I did. That was what they called working with the families, where they would go in and they would just ground themselves and help bring the families into that grounded space from which birth is possible. So they were teaching up in Northern California at a midwifery conference, and Mary was trying to share how her own birth affected the way she was living in the world. And she said she would get to the part where the cord was around her neck and she couldn't keep going. The tears welled up, you know, the little one inside her needed to be heard. So she backed up, tried it again, and the same thing happened. And Ray was sitting in the audience because he was going to present next with her. So she just asked him to come up and sit with her, shoulder to shoulder. And he was able to help her ground. And then she was able to tell the story. So shortly after that, they were in a practitioner training, which was the trainees were taking turns being practitioners, and the other trainees were taking turns being clients or support. And there came a warble in the group, and Ray was having a hard time. And Karen Melton said to Ray, "Would you like Mary to come sit up next to you?" Because they had told this story. So she did, and just concentrated on grounding, and Ray settled right back down. So I learned this when I took Body into Being. Anna was teaching this particular thing of standing with two people on either side of you. And at one point, I had one person on one side of me that was really focused and grounded, and the other person was super agitated, just did not really, settle. And she finally just left. And then Anna came over and stood next to me, and my whole body relaxed. And I so got that this was important, this physical contact and sharing whatever grounding you have with someone else. In the last 2 months of Ray's life, not even 2 months, it was less than 7 weeks, he stayed with me once he found out he was dealing with cancer. And people would come and sit with him. And sometimes 2 people came. And his home was my couch. And he would sit between 2 people, Tara and Mary, Natalie and Cindy. And I just watched his whole body settle. So I have no idea. Kate, can you tell me how much time I have left?
I don't know.
Oh,
Olga, do you know how much time is left? 1 minute, says Michael Trout.
okay. So Ray was about bringing people together in groups. He developed 8 principles, which I have no time to cover. If you want to know them, go to beba.org. There's a nice list. And that's what he used. And the work works. People all over the world are doing the work that he trained them in. People are offering womb surrounds. People are offering trainings. People are doing supervision. They get together in groups. The groups that he started, some of them are still going 3 years after his death. So thank you all. I appreciate being part of this August group.
Just as the environment affects the way a flower flourishes, other circumstances of your life, the soil of whom you may become. Let integrity nourish your personality and love become the transformative light. By doing so, you will be confident that out of the darkest encounters, the most beautiful flowers can flourish. Little Dragon commented on how to survive life's challenges.
Yeah, it is a great honor and joy for me to induce Marty Glenn for the award to be member in the Hall of Honor. She is one of the big ladies of ISPPM, or not of ISPPM, but prenatal psychology and APA, and she is a very famous founder of the integrated school for somatic psychology, prenatal and perinatal psychology in Santa Barbara. And she is a persistent teacher and educator in prenatal and perinatal psychology. And I will name 5 words or 6 words to characterize her broad soul. She is a lady who created out of her life experience a broadening of her consciousness to integrate her whole life. And the background is a basic curiosity and ability to hear and to love. And out of her own work, she was able to understand other people and support them in their work. And their main thing is not knowledge, but being. And now, Marty Glenn, I give you the word to continue.
I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you. I'm so touched. I'm just in tears. All of this is just such an honor. And wow. I'm just thrilled and grateful today as we come together with so many of you who have invented and practiced and studied in this vital field of prenatal and perinatal psychology. And just as an aside, as some information, I have a brain tumor right now, and I'm working on healing it. But one of my symptoms is difficulty remembering. My brain is gone, and speaking. So and it's getting better. But if by chance something difficult happens, my partner Ken is right here. So for which I am very grateful. Appreciate your understanding. Wow, just to see all of you and be here, and it's just amazing. But I want to begin with a poem that I wrote as I was thinking about this and thinking about some of the principles of prenatal and perinatal psychology and how vital our earliest experiences are, as you know. I invite you to take a breath, relax, and as Ken always says, allow the words to watch over you. All I really want is to feel safe, to be seen and heard. I want to settle into the warmth of your love, knowing I can count on you. Smiling, catching your eyes in mine, reaching, touching, breathing, I begin to feel safe. I can bring all of me here. I can feel the love. And again, all I really want is to feel safe, to be seen and heard. I want to settle into the warmth of your love, knowing I can count on you. Smiling, catching your eyes in mine, reaching, touching, breathing, I begin to feel safe. I can bring all of me here. I can feel the love. And as we've been talking about here, our earliest experiences lay the foundation for our lifelong self-esteem, our ability to take risks, be creative. We know all that. Experiencing safety, being seen and heard, help us build relationships. Think about your earliest experiences. I know we all work with other people and all of that, but we've all done our own work. And that's kind of what I want to focus a little bit on today. How your early experiences and how they influence your self-esteem, your capacity in relationships, your ability to learn and take risks, and how that may have changed as you've done the work, as we call it, healing and allowing yourself to be you. I want to tell you a little bit about how I came to understand the importance and the impact of our very earliest experiences. As a therapist in the early 80s, I began using first hypnosis to access the root of the problem, and the client I was dealing with would go into a very relaxed state, and I would quietly invite them to take us back to the source of this difficulty. I'll never forget one experience that changed how I understood the difficulties we have and set me on a path of deeper healing, eventually leading me to perinatal psychology. So I invite each of you to take another big breath as I tell the story. It's pretty amazing. I had a client who was having difficulty in her relationship with her otherwise happy marriage. They were pretty good. And in a very relaxed state, I invited her, take us back to the source of this difficulty. And what emerged surprised us both. I get chill bumps still, and this was decades ago, over 40 years ago. But she began having a horrific experience, one that she could not connect with at all. And I knew she was going to visit her mother that day, and I invited her to tell her mother anything about the story that felt comfortable to her. And she told her mother about the scene she experienced in our session. The cobblestone streets, the sort of 4 soldiers, and a horrific rape scene. As she told the story, her mom was shocked, burst into tears, and explained, when I was first pregnant with you, I went to visit my family in Europe. And through her tears, she told her daughter, what happened? She said, but I never told anyone, not even your father knows this. My client continued to work with this scenario, understanding where it came from and what it was about, separated from it. And she began to realize, and I began to realize, the importance of our earliest experiences. And I thought that I had invented something. I thought it was pretty new and exciting. But I soon realized that Thomas Fernie and David Chamberlain, William Emerson, and several people, they were already working this realm. So I became very active in what became APA and trainings and workshops, and worked with wonderful, wonderful Ray Castellino. His presentation just now, I was in tears. Such an influence on all of us. And Winnie McCarty, whom you're going to hear from in a little while. And in the 90s, my husband, Ken, and I realized that there was no college where you could get a degree in pre and perinatal psychology or doctorate in somatic psychology. And the two, as you know, go hand in hand. And since I had helped form another college, Pacifica Graduate Institute, 1982, for 7 years, I had experience in starting a college. So later, I began to work with Winnie McCarty and Judith Weaver. And in 2000, and Ken, of course, he's sitting right here. He's the biggest part. We founded Santa Barbara Graduate Institute. And in the next 10 years, we enrolled over 500 students. We worked hard. We wanted to become accredited. We did everything we could do to become accredited. And we were told, after all these years, after 10 years, that unless we had $1 million in the bank, we would never become accredited. And it was so disappointing when we turned over SBGI to the Chicago school, who thought they understood what we were doing. They did not. And they closed after 2 years. But we still hear from these students all the time about the extraordinary work they're doing. And many of them have also worked with you. But since then, Ken and I founded and have run an institute we call RISIO, which means Rising Together, and now have regular programs and about a dozen facilitators with prenatal, perinatal psychology and somatic psychology as a basis. And I tell these stories to invite all of us to engage in our own story, to know that as you understand the lessons of your early experiences and model the result as you consciously and unconsciously help others feel welcome and safe, you are helping to change their lives and healing their early experiences. You know this so well, and you practice it so well. When we slow down, have eye contact, and listen deeply, we bring peace and love to all we touch. And I just ask myself, and I ask you, what's calling you? The pre and perinatal principles, along with somatic awareness, being with the body, are important foundations of all the relationships and healthy living and all the work that we do, which you know. What drew you to this field? What are you experiencing in your own life? Since beginning and continuing this work, Ken and I have become closer. Our relationship is sweeter and would have to be because we work together 24/7, share everything. But what have you noticed in your own life? And what do you experience with your clients as you work within the body and these early experiences? I know you, and you know you are making a difference with every single person you meet. From the people that you do deep work with in your office, groups, and I find that people I meet on the street, when I have eye contact and I smile, you can see their body relax. And they move on with their day. And you know that too. So I'm going to close with a song that we often use at Orizio. And I invite you, and I know a lot of you singers out there, to just sing the response. It's courage, my friend. Courage, and then courage, my friend, my friend. It goes like this. Courage, courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and sing your spirit home. One more time. Courage, courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. We will walk with you, and sing your spirit home. I know that you will continue to experience the miracle that you are. And I thank you for this honor and for being able to be here. I love you. Thank you.
There was a time when the world appeared as a dark, cold cellar to my eyes. I had to enter that cellar and suffer for reasons I did not know. Besides the tiny, dusty window that kept reminding me not to lose hope, I was greeted by neither kindness nor love. Everything that one should not be became the peculiar way that led me to who I am.
And the third award goes to Jules Garland, was born in a British military hospital in Hong Kong in 1958. I suppose she has been an international figure ever since. She grew up with a kind of involuntary self-sufficiency, as her parents were rarely home and there were no grandparents to help out. They had all died before she was born. Her Chinese caretakers did not speak English. As a young adult, she began to teach children how to swim, basically because, as she put it, it was the one thing I knew. Somehow, however, she found herself noticing the mothers who brought their kids for lessons. Some of the moms were pregnant. Naturally, she began talking with them. Miraculously, a holistic parenting program grew out of these connections, and her future was set. The word was out on this dimple-faced lady with the startling smile and the strange beliefs. Global health starts in the womb. Global peace starts in the womb. She had settled in the south of France with her husband when David and Donna Chamberlain came to visit. She calls it an important marker in her life, after which she committed to a simple mission, changing the way the world thought about parenting and early development. She was outspoken about those who stood in the way of progress, including Western medicine, which she had the audacity to remark had been very naughty, and men who, not understanding women, began to fear them and then to dominate them. Not everyone turns such zealousness into a post at the United Nations, but Julie did, as the chief UN representative for the World Organization of Prenatal Education Associations, a post she held for a decade. She then co-founded Birthing the New Humanity and served as its CEO. If this progression seems a little unlikely, consider the core of this surprising, inspiring woman who converted early childhood sorrows into the sort of beckoning she would aim at anyone who would listen. Don't you want to be loved? Don't you want to be seen? It became a kind of clarion call, the answer to which seemed profoundly self-evident to her. This is, I think, why her career worked the way it did, why it progressed so dramatically, and where the efficacy of her work came from. Her message was always personal, even intimate. She thought these things were obvious, not at all political, not at all controversial. There's an unsettling grandmotherly sweetness in the face of this pioneer we're honoring here today, but it's mixed with an earnestness and a deliberateness that one would be wise to not overlook. You don't want to cross swords with someone who might be thought of as a velvet hammer. People like Julie Gerland know where they come from, what they believe, and why, and they will simply not be dissuaded. This is, from my perspective, why Dr. Julie Gerland is really being inducted into the Hall of Fame in the Prenatal Sciences tonight. Not just for what she has done and on how many continents she has done it, but for what she's made of, the ferocity of her dedication, the certainty of her mission. Jules Gerland.
Thank you so much, Michael, for that extensive introduction. I wasn't expecting all that. And I'm sorry for the doubling, but I'm going to go back a little bit down memory lane as well to show you how important it is to recognize that we're never alone. That if it wasn't for so many of you out there, past, present, and even the future, there's nothing we can do. It all depends on our team, on being together. So I'd like to say a big thank you to the organizers and the Prenatal Sciences Partnerships and the selection committee of the Hall of Honor for selecting me for this honor. Thank you, Olga, for your tireless work, and Michael for presenting me. I'm deeply touched and grateful to accept this honor, as I said, not only for me, for the work that I have done and am doing, but for all those who have preceded, contributed, and supported this paradigm shift in human understanding. Undoubtedly, one of the most important rediscoveries of modern times. We are conscious before birth. The still little known fact is akin to the discovery that consciousness continues after death. It's a paradigm shift for contemporary science, one that validates what many ancient civilizations have already proclaimed. I honor those whose work has educated, mentored, and inspired me since I began my deep dive into the fascinating and profound period of our existence, now over 40 years ago. My meeting first with the great spiritual teacher, Omraam Mikhail Ivanov, whose words, and I quote, "If we were to look after pregnant mothers in 2 generations, that's just 50 years, we could close all our hospitals and all our prisons." This shook me to the core. How would our world look today if we had listened to Omraam Mikhail Ivanov when he told an assembly of doctors this in France in 1939? At just 22 years old, I found the answer to human suffering. I set about imagining another world, a world where all people were healthy, happy, creative, living in harmony with themselves, each other, and above all, with the innate intelligence that has become my intimate guide. So armed with this book, Education Begins Before Birth, and then the newly released The Secret Life of the Unborn Child by pioneer, best-selling author, and much beloved Dr. Thomas Burney, I began my journey to look after pregnant mothers. I'm deeply grateful for your work, Thomas. It has greatly contributed to ground this eternal wisdom in contemporary science. It has given us the legs to stand on in the tremendous paradigm shift that is happening in our understanding of human nature and development. I was so eager to discover the connections that I began asking my mother and every mother I could meet if they could remember any stories about their pregnancy. Not many mothers were able to recall particular instances until one day my mother said, "I have a story for you." She had arrived in Singapore as a young soldier's wife from their native England. One hot, humid afternoon, of course there was no air conditioning in those days, when she was pregnant with their first child, my mother went to rest in her bedroom. Upon entering, she saw a long visitor who had had exactly the same idea. Sorry, my mother saw a snake which unraveled its long, gracious body and courteously left over the windowsill and out into the garden. Never having seen a snake before, she screamed. The brave soldier, my father, arrived and soon returned with the trophy. He'd killed the snake. Still in shock, they took the snake to the botanical gardens, only to discover that it was harmless. My mother recounted that she remembered that she was struck with grief, that this innocent creature had lost its life simply because of her ignorance and fear. If only she could have saved its life, she thought. At the young age of 10, her firstborn, my brother Robert, revealed his very unusual passion and love for snakes. He would save up his pocket money and buy up snakes in the Chinese market in Hong Kong, where we lived then. By the age of 15, he had become a sought-after Asian snake specialist. He had many pet snakes and even toilet-trained Percy, his 6-foot python. There were many pioneers who have inspired and empowered me, but I'd like to particularly mention the late Dr. David Chamberlain, an American psychologist, and his lovely wife, Donna. We have had the joy and privilege and honor of calling them our friends. Over 30 years ago, during a visit to our home in France, we sat glued to our chairs for long hours listening to David's discoveries. His research included combing through scientific and medical journals, remember those pre-internet days? To discover that prenatal and newborn babies are highly sensitive, intelligent, and feeling human beings. His passion, his devotion, and love has taken us from, can you imagine, operating on newborns without anesthetic, over a bridge towards our current understanding of human development and consciousness. David breathed the human, the love, the sentient into the otherwise cold, boring, scientific data. Then came Thomas Verney, who founded the Association for Pre- and Perinatal Psychology and Health. This organization has been a great prenatal think tank and a family for me for decades. The untiring work and patience of those who lead this organization deserve a standing ovation. Thank you, APA. Presenting at and attending in-person conferences for decades has been so rich in so many ways. My obsession has always been to change the world, to relieve suffering, even make it obsolete. I'm convinced that we can live in harmony with innate intelligence, and that will bring about the health, happiness, and abundance that we all seek. Writing the foreword to my first booklet, David encouraged me to continue my journey with the parents in my holistic parenting program, offering them preparation for a natural birth. Well, I knew nothing about birth, nor have I, ironically, ever wanted to have children. Unfortunately, I didn't need to invent the wheel. I met and trained with the American pioneer, Mickey Mongan, the founder of hypnobirthing, and that was in the year 2000. The Mongan method is based on the British obstetrician's work, Grantley Dick Reed, and his book, Childbirth Without Fear. It reveals that there is no physiological reason for birth to be painful outside of the fear, tension, pain syndrome. I wanted to shout this from the top of the roofs. I began teaching hypnobirthing childbirth education classes, and soon I was invited to train educators and continued propagating this method. The joy of announcing the welcome news: nature has not condemned you to suffer. And yes, dads, you do have an integral part in your baby's development, birth, and nurturing. This was so satisfying for me. Hypnobirthing is now being taught in over 47 countries. Thank you, Mickey. But my deepest gratitude yet goes to my husband, Francois. He has supported, empowered, and joined me in my mission for almost 40 years now. From our deep dives into our own personal early experiences, healing emotional wounds, discovering how we tick, no stone has been left unturned. We also specialized in alchemical hypnotherapy, pioneered by David Quigley in the USA. After learning this method, I couldn't imagine any future parent not going through this process before having a child. It simply changes everything. We became skilled at accessing the subconscious, the superconscious, healing trauma, reprogramming subconscious programs, and enjoyed the results that this brief therapy brings to parents and professionals alike. After training professionals in this method, we turned our experiences to empowering our students to live alchemy as a way of life. We learned that our traumas and challenges have a common thread. They are places within us where unconditional divine love can't flow. Healing takes place when we manage to open up and let divine love in. Like birth, it's a process. Francois' deep love for humanity, his profound inquiring spirit and purity, fueled my fire. We became a living laboratory, sharing a vast mission to transform ourselves and help others to do the same. Changing the paradigm on early parenting and birth practices can only begin with ourselves. When my advocacy work at the United Nations became almost a full-time occupation, Francois resigned from his career as an airline captain, and as he puts it, to carry my suitcases. The largest ever global meeting on the state of the planet was not big enough for us. But anyhow, we took to the Rio de Janeiro Earth Summit in 2012. We organized an event that proposed to the world that mothers hold the keys to peace, prosperity, and sustainable development. And nearly 10 years of lobbying the United Nations, the World Family Summits, and traveling the globe with many co-workers, a groundbreaking document appeared, recognizing that our experiences from pregnancy to age 2 lay the foundation for lifelong health, well-being, and intelligence. The Nurturing Care Framework for Early Childhood Development states, it is important to create an interdisciplinary and holistic approach to this prenatal and perinatal psychology, provide early education to youth, couples, and parents, as well as other significant support to couples, unquote. So a new dynamic started for us in our most populous country, India. In 2017, we were invited to host an international conference in the state university. After 3 successful international Birthing the New Humanity conferences and many visits to this amazing subcontinent, working closely with Indian and international professionals, Birthing the New Humanity was born. Last year, we published our first anthology, Womb to Thrive, The Missing Keys to Heal Yourself, Your Family, and the Planet, where 26 multidisciplinary, multicultural experts, co-authors, ranging from thought leaders to an Afghan refugee midwife, offer their candid stories on how they are pioneering change. I highly recommend this book. You can find it on Amazon. After speaking twice in the British Parliament and participating in the work of Dame Andrea Leadsom MP and her 1001 Critical Days campaign, I remember writing to Kate Middleton, the Princess of Wales, when she was first pregnant. I told her how vitally important the prenatal period is and about hypnobirthing. This year, Kate initiated the Shaping Us campaign in the UK, encouraging corporations to participate in raising awareness and supporting parents during the pregnancy to age 5. She says this information is, a quote, as important as the climate crisis. So every human being needs to understand that a child in the womb is a conscious human being, a soul that is incarnating. We all need, as Marty said, to feel safe, loved unconditionally, wanted, protected, and guided. Then and only then are we free to really reach our full potential and create a planetary garden where every human being can live in harmony with Mother Nature and know her bounty. But in the age of ChatGPT and everything artificial, the challenge remains to discover the last frontier, ourselves and ourselves. Decades ago, when I was diagnosed with a life-threatening disease, unafraid of dying, my task became how to live in harmony with my body and the innate intelligence that makes our lives possible. To make a long story short, my cells became my teachers. Just as we have much to gain by communicating with the unborn baby, our health and happiness depends on our ability to establish a loving partnership with our conscious cells, our body. So, where does that bring us to? What's next? Together with our core team now, currently, Amélie Paterne, Faye Suzanne, and our global founding members, we're using our decades of understanding to consciously create and birth the Birthing the New Humanity Global Community app. The mission of this digital platform is to raise awareness, provide holistic education, resources, support, and community. We invite you to join us and download the Birthing the New Humanity app in your app stores. Register and join our global community. It's free. Many more features will be added as we go forward. Resource directories for experts, professionals, products, podcasted films, a multiversity offering courses, professional trainings, everything you could want. But our next baby is BTNH World Media. And this is consecrated to producing global media to inform, inspire, and empower, because this has to get out into the world. But last but not least, Birth a Change, our signature transformation program, has been successfully given in both French and English to participants in countries such as Switzerland, Romania, and Nepal. I would like to thank and show my appreciation for all the pioneers, educators, professionals, experts, parents who are making this new life on earth a reality. There is so much to do, and we look forward to collaborating with you. Just like the organs of the body, which work for the greater good of the whole body, we too are invited to offer our expertise, our love, our actions, working together for the greater good of our global family, so that we may all thrive. Our collective mission is a big one, but one that Mother Nature herself has, I'm convinced, decided to do, which is birth a new humanity, one universal family that is conceived, developed, birthed in the celebration of eternal life and love. Thank you.
Желанный ребенок, в семье он любим, единственный в мире и неповторим, единственный неповторимый, единственный очень любимый. Счастливые дети умеют учиться, умеют дружить, от души веселиться, хорошие папы и мамы. Чтоб был ваш ребенок желанный, хорошие папы и мамы, чтоб был ваш ребенок желанным. Ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля, ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля, ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля, ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля-ля. Счастливые дети умеют учиться, умеют дружить, от души веселиться. Ведь так не должно быть на свете, чтоб были ненужными дети. Ведь так не должно быть на свете, чтоб были ненужными дети.
Love persuaded the ego to let go of its selfishness, and the outcome became the liberation it longed for. And instead of dividing and polarizing, it used its energy to connect, unite, and to clear away the mist from its mind, initiating a conscious and fulfilling life. As the little dragon closed his notebook, he felt that with faith in love and some imagination, even the unthinkable can happen.
So it gives me great pleasure to introduce the next inductee, Jaap van der Wal, MD, PhD, Associate Professor in Anatomy and Embryology at the University of Maastricht, Holland, until his retirement in 2012. Jaap has made important contributions to craniosacral therapy, osteopathy, polarity therapy, prenatal psychology, and the study of trauma. He's a prolific writer, much of it with a biological focus. I was particularly drawn to some of the more edgy titles of his papers, such as The Fascia as the Organ of Innerness, or The Speech of the Embryo, or The Embryo in Us, a phenomenological search for soul and consciousness in the prenatal body, which was published in Pre and Perinatal Psychology Journal. Jaap does not consider himself a mainstream embryologist. He's a discipline-bridging scientist who works at the intersection of medicine, anatomy, and spirituality. After his retirement, Jaap fully devoted his energy to what he called Embryo in Motion, a worldwide project on teaching embryosophy, which is a combination of embryo and philosophy. The embryo in us can only be studied and understood, Jaap says, by ourselves, not by someone else, not by an observing scientist. This requires some heavy lifting, and I'm sure Jaap will explain it in language we can all understand. I promised Jaap to be short, and I hope I kept it as short as is humanly possible. So, please, welcome Dr. Jaap van der Wal.
Good evening, everyone, from Maastricht in the south of the Netherlands, and it's evening here. Well, I'm the embryologist in the hall. I think I have some medical colleagues in the house, but I think I'm the only embryologist in the Hall of Fame. But of course, it's a big honor for me to be inducted today. But I would like to use this talk, this award talk, a little bit to explore and contemplate about my position as embryologist in the field of prenatal science. Where do I stand as an embryologist when my main game nowadays is to make bridge between embryology and psychology. I was trained as a medical doctor, but never worked as a therapist. I ended up in science and teaching, becoming an anatomist and biologist. Gradually, however, I began to challenge that dichotomy between being on the one hand and becoming on the other hand. So I became more and more interested in morphology, which is a science that deals with the question like, why does the body look like as it looks like? And when I taught, I will sometimes show you some of my slides. And when I was teaching at the university, I always emphasized to my students that anatomy is, in terms of knowledge, that anatomy is very limited in terms of knowledge of the so-called first person body. That is what body philosophy calls the subject body that we all are and that you experience. How does that relate to the body as described by the anatomist, as described by science? How does that relate to the body, the so-called objective body of the third person's body? As an anatomist, I know nothing of that first person body, at least not about yours, not about that of my students. I always ask my students, whose body do you want to be a doctor for? Your patient's body or science's body? I can only train you to be an expert on the latter body. And so I did for many years. Although something in me refused to accept this division between these two body realities. What is this something in me anyway? Today people say things like, it's my genes or it's my brain. And I always respond, oh, so it's not you? Actually, it seems to me that we still have not really come to terms with the philosopher Descartes and his so-called dualism of mind and body, of soul and body. Like more philosophers, I believe that his famous statement, I think, therefore I am, with that he was not positing a thought or a theory, but he was speaking about an experience in himself. Does not the child who asks us, where do I come from, also ask from that similar experience? Namely, that there is something within us that can only be experienced and lived by us personally. And that is therefore apparently of a different order than my body. Simple philosophical logic. You can only be aware of something if you are separated, distinguished from it. The child does not ask for the body. Let me show you a slide. The child does not ask for the body. That's why I don't give a damn about the usual trite and short-sighted answers like, you came from your mother's womb, or even worse, you were made by mom and dad. Such explanations are, in my opinion, philosophical and biological, inattainable, modern fairy tales. On the other hand, I'm also repeatedly confronted with questions like, when does the soul arrive in the embryo? Is there anything like spirit prenatally at all? Such questioners apparently intuitively assume that soul is something different from the body. On the other hand, people nowadays are told that soul, and in particular consciousness, is an epiphenomenon of the brain activity, and therefore cannot exist in an embryo. Of course, I realize that embryologists and morphologists have found scientific explanations for the structure of our body in material substrate, such as genes and cells and tissues, in the body, that is. And I know that neuropsychologists nowadays expose soul and mind as nothing but a function of the brain. It seems that the possible Cartesian distinction between body and soul is almost completely eliminated. In other words, science seems to have taken away from us our soul. Soul comes from the body or the brain, they say, the neurogenetic determinism. I really cannot take seriously the oft-repeated pseudo-scientific arguments like, just as kidneys produce urine, so brains produce our consciousness and thoughts. Here comes a slide. As if kidneys produce urine. The fluid called urine actually pre-exists the kidney as body fluids. The same is true of the brain. It is by definition impossible for the brain to produce something like consciousness or soul. Why? Consciousness is the imponderable, the immanent, the non-bodily, according to Descartes, but also according to everyone's experience. One lives the whole damn day with a psychosomatic reality of which one simply has to conclude that only you can experience it and feel it, but you cannot see and measure it. With the advanced brain scans, they nowadays are able to read your mind, to read your thoughts. Well, that could be, but there comes a slide. Listen to Rumi, 13th century wisdom. Study me as much as you like. You will never know me. For I differ in 100 ways from what you see me to be. Put yourself behind my eyes and see me as I see myself. For I have chosen to dwell in a place that you do not see. For me, Rumi confirms with this my idea that the mind-seeking embryologist and the soul-exploring psychologist have nothing to do in the body of the third person, in the scientific body that you have, and so to speak, foolish with brains and kidneys. If I'm looking for spirit or soul in the embryo, I have to be in the body of the first person, and that is principally impossible. That's where the phenomenological approach came in for me. A phenomenologist is more interested in meaning and significance than in causes and explanations. But is there such a thing as phenomenological morphology? To understand objectively what forms mean. What is being expressed in a form, in a body? Two possibilities. Either there is no something that is expressed in the body. In the background I hear, there is no somewhere where you come from, child. Or the other possibility, that must be the soul, the res cogitans of Descartes, so inaccessible to scientific approach by an onlooker or observer. As a logical consequence of the aforementioned neurogenetic determinism, the prenatal human was increasingly seen as not yet human, not yet ready, both physically and both psychologically. However, it became increasingly clear to me that the embryo within us is not a past, just the phase of the first 9 prenatal weeks that we leave behind. No, that the embryo is the primary actuality of our body, still existing and functioning within us. The body is not anatomy, says the anatomist in me. Our body is a lifelong process, a process of formation, of self-formation, says the embryologist in me. This could be called the performance in your language. This principle applies to every living creature. There comes a slide. The frog does not come from the tadpole. Even the tadpole is frog. Living beings create themselves all their lives. We call this autopoiesis, and it means that we are not machines. Life is not. Life becomes. Living beings are appearances in time. So, as an embryo, we do not become human beings. We already behave like human beings. So again, there's the question, what are we actually doing when we are embryos? From two different disciplines, I personally, in the 1980s of the last centuries, got two answers to this question. Answers that turn back psyche into the body and body back into the psyche. The first is Ronald Lane. Ronald Lane, psychiatrist in London, could be considered as a forerunner of prenatal psychology. He speculates, is it possible for we cells, before and after especially neural tissue arise, to reproduce in later phases of the life cycle transforms or variations of our first experiences? May our prenatal experiential patterns function as templates for some of our patterns woven into the complex knit of postnatal design? The other answer to the question, what are we doing as an embryo, came from Erich Blechschmidt, a human embryologist from Germany. Soul or spirit is neither something that comes later to the body or is added to it, nor it is produced by the body in later life. No, soul is pre-exercising itself in the formation of the body. A body forming soul, the consciousness that makes me speak these words now, is the same principle in me that is somehow behind the shaping of the body. I'm not alone with this conviction of a twofold relationship of soul with body. Here comes a slide. And Thomas will recognize himself, I hope. There are two dimensions. The embodied mind, Thomas Verney, on the one hand, but also the embodying mind, or spirit into form, Carriona Mensa, on the other hand. This opened my eyes. The language of the embryo is the language of the body, the language of the forms, behavior, in other words. The gestures, and a gesture is the phenomenological principle, it involves much more than movements or motions. The gestures by which we form and shape our bodies later appear as function, as physiology, and later still in our psyche as behavior. When the child comes upright for the first time, 1 year old, that's not the first time. It was pre-exercised in the 6th to 10th month, the 10th week of your prenatal life. And it will not be the last time. Very often in your life, you have to find back yourself by standing upright against your father in order to become yourself. The body does not have a soul. It is soul. Now I could come in conversation with people who take seriously questions like, do we experience when we are an embryo? And so my mission became more or less my mission to give back not only to the embryo its soul, but also to the human being. Soul and body are not a duality, and certainly not a dichotomy, but a polarity. They are one. No spirit without body, no body without spirit. Rudolf Steiner. Man is mind, motion, matter. Andrew Taylor Still. Our consciousness, our soul, is manifested throughout the body. Randall Stone and Verdi and Lipton. However, in each organ and body area, the relationship between them is quite different. From, on the one hand, vital, dormant, unconscious knowing and acting in the embryo and in your organs. On the other hand, the self-conscious awakening in the almost dead brain. I disagree with the hype that consciousness and psyche are products of the body. Nor do I go along with the idea that the body is a product of the cells. The embryo shows loud and clear that the whole is the primary, that the organism organizes itself into cells and parts and organs, and also orchestrates the genes. I also disagree with the assumption that we come from a fertilized egg. We do not start as a cell. The zygote is a one-celled, unicellular body. We do not come from the body. We come through the body. Just as our children do not come from us, but through us, and therefore cannot and should never be a possession. No one should be anyone's possession at all. Never again. I consider things like genes and brains to be necessary but not sufficient conditions for our existence. But I must also note that in much mainstream science, the condition for a thing, for example, genes for heredity, brains for consciousness, that the condition for a thing is often confused with the thing itself. I have to look for spirit, soul, in the same embryo where my mainstream colleagues cannot find those dimensions, because they cannot see, because they do not want to see, and they are not allowed to see. The only correct dimension for prenatal existence is that of incarnation and embodiment. We are from conception on a being of soul and body. My nearly last slide. Sharing, there we go. The body developed out of us, not the other way around. We created the body, cell by cell, we created it. Again, Rumi, 13th century wisdom. And do you really think that you have no memory of knowledge or knowledge of this all? Of course you have. In your conscious and subconscious body of the first person, where you might dig it up with the help of someone else, maybe. Not just in your hippocampus or so. The embryo in us, that's the way to go. In closing, I would like to mention that, and here comes my last slide, that I'm very proud to be inducted in this Hall of Fame along with the late Ray Castellino. He attended my live embryo courses a few times, and we discussed a lot about embryology and psychology and prenatal soul. In this regard, I would, however, also like to propose here and now that my dearest American and beloved American friend, the late John Chitty, should be nominated for this Hall of Fame. I had the opportunity to present my embryosophy course with John over 8 times in Boulder, Colorado. I don't know of anyone else who, as a therapist, was so deeply committed to the, shall we say, traumatized child in all of us. As a teacher, he introduced and practiced Randall Stone's polarity thinking with so much enthusiasm. Surely, dear John, you will deserve to stand here with me under the roof of this hall. Thank you for the confidence you've always shown in me. It is you who brought me here. Thank you for your listening to this talk. Ja, het is moeilijk om te lezen.
Little Dragon stood on the podium to talk about courage. He chose to sing because this is when he feels the least comfortable. Courage is the mother of confidence, with the will to proceed despite the risk. This gives confidence the opportunity to shape the present, he explained. And one entered the world of his mind, one would witness his duel with insecurity, but one would also notice the flare of his victory.
And the last award of this lovely day goes to well, I was told to present Wendy and McCarthy in 2 minutes, but it seems it's really impossible for me, but I'll do my best, I promise you. It seems it's not coincidence. We just heard the piece of art about courage. So I'm going to present this lovely, lovely person, Dr. Wendy Ann McCarthy. And I'm sending lots of love and Turkish hugs from miles away to you and to all people from all over the world here. Well, Dr. Wendy Ann McCarthy has been a visionary leader in prenatal and perinatal psychology for over 30 years. She's a prenatal and perinatal academic, author, theorist, presenter, trainer, and groundbreaking therapeutic practitioner with babies, children, and families. She's a recipient of the Thomas Verney Award for Excellence in Prenatal and Perinatal Psychology. She has a bachelor's degree in nursing, a master's in family studies and early development, and a doctorate in counseling psychology. She attended the APA's 1989 Congress. She fell in love with the prenatal and perinatal field and had a life-changing moment while watching Dr. Emerson's in a video session with a baby. Her life work is dedicated to support actualizing the true nature and wholeness of the divine human potential and relationships from the beginning of life, while restoring and repairing early ancestral patterns, trauma, and unmet needs as early as possible, even during the preconception
and prenatal period. During her 30-plus year prenatal and perinatal-oriented private practice, Wendy has supported thousands of babies and families preconception forward in person and distantly. Her pioneering approach synthesizes her groundbreaking PPN early development model, consciousness studies, energy psychology techniques, intuitive and telepathic skills, and more recently, the alchemical, energetic, and esoteric sciences. So the floor is yours, Wendy. I'm so honored to present you. Thanks.
I first want to start with a special personal love for so many people have touched me. Ray and Sandra, just full of love and light for you right now. And Ken and Marty, love you so deeply. And our collaborations have been just an amazing gift in my life, and so many of you. I'm going to share a screen, have some slides. So again, I'm so touched by everybody on this call and so many people in our field. I feel incredibly grateful to everyone in our field. We have such love for it, and I share that with you all. And I'm so happy that you're sharing it with me. And your devotion to supporting babies and families and bringing the ancient wisdoms of the sentient baby moves me greatly. And I really am honored to be a member of this beautiful community. And thank you very much for honoring and valuing my life work today. It warms my heart. All right. Okay. This is where I came into the picture in 1989 with pre and perinatal psychology. I had been an OB nurse, went on to get my PhD and have a psychotherapy practice. So I knew OB and working with families, and I knew psychology, but I couldn't imagine what putting them together actually meant, especially when I saw things like the sperm journey and psychotherapy with a 3-month-old. And I was so intrigued, I had to come. And immediately I fell in love with the field. And this moment is one of the moments that stands out in my life. William Emerson, in a presentation doing psychotherapy with babies and children, and he had a video where he was having this beautiful, tender conversation with the baby about when the baby was born and the difficulties, and now, and sharing it. And I saw, it was as if a veil in my consciousness opened, and I had this deep remembrance about our consciousness coming in. And I saw this baby's greater consciousness, and it just changed me. And from that point on, really the next 35 years has been exploring greater consciousness coming in and how we can best support them. So 15 years later, through BEBA, through 15 years in my own private practice, especially with toddlers and young children and some adults, working, trying to put together the pre and perinatal graduate school program, what we found is
usually in an early development program, you have models of early development that are taught. And all we had to go to rely on to integrate into the program were the mainstream ones, which were really based on a Newtonian modern philosophy of the biological human being as the basis. But we knew that pre and perinatal goes way beyond that. I decided to get an academic grant and try and take on making sense of it in a way that we could provide a lens to start looking at early development, including pre and perinatal psychology and the baby's subjective point of view. I spent a year looking at traditional early development models and reading so many things in our field, especially the clinical work. And out came the basic model that was a multidimensional consciousness-based early development model that was published in Welcoming Consciousness. And from our field, this dual perspective of awareness and capacity emerged. With each level of our being have a very distinctive characteristics of ways of being, of awareness. And that's really the journey of these two, the non-physical being coming into human form. And so Welcoming Consciousness was my attempt to introduce that. And that was the time when we were, quote, in the human potential movement. Especially in the US, but I think globally, except for indigenous populations, overall, we were still in that modern era where we saw the human being, a physical, biological being, and working towards human development and human potential. Then we moved into the human spiritual potential, mind, body, spirit. And it's this that I kind of put in, all of a sudden, pre and perinatal really put in a peg that no one else did. I would present to other specialties and areas to bring in pre and perinatal, like energy psychology community. And another one was the childhood spirituality movement that was coming on board there. And people were so excited about, wow, discovering children's spirituality and how can we nurture that? And I remember going to one of their presentations or one of the conferences and presenting and saying, well, our field has the answer, because many people are asking, when does it develop? How does it develop? And I come in saying, it's already here from the very, very beginning. And this is the piece where if we want to nurture and help that human spiritual potential, we begin all the way from the beginning. So there is a transition from having a human biological base moving towards potential to a human biological base moving towards spiritual potential. And then it starts flipping into a spiritual being that's having a spiritual human potential, much more holistic. So then where I feel that we're on the dawning age of is now looking at the divine human potential, what I call the angelic true self. And how can we support living as the true self in human life? I feel our humanity and what's happening at a consciousness level, an energetic level, both for the Gaia and for humans and all sentient life, is that we are being given the opportunity to raise up, to remember more and more and embody more and more of our true self, all the way back to source. So where I'm at in my practice now is starting way back with the physical as a nurse, emotional, mental, psychological as a psychotherapist, coming into APA, working with sentient babies, trying to map out more and more of consciousness and how we support babies in a very practical, therapeutic way, teaching it. I am developing, not only are we supporting the physical, mental, emotional, but we're also in the lower energetic subtle bodies. We are supporting and can interact and help heal even the higher levels of our being as babies come in. This is where I'm practicing now, and I feel like we're right on the edge of moving into more of this very practically. So about 5 years ago, while I was really coming into this, I named my practice Luminous Baby, because our primary light of who we are and supporting that. So I have a family story that portrays. So when I think of all the things that learning from babies, and all of us have so many stories of what we've learned from babies, what they tell us, this one won't be new to many of us, although new to many out there, wherever that is, but you know what I mean. I was working with a family, a beautiful family. The mother was very, very conscious and very adept at meeting her children in spirit before they were even conceived. We were working together, and she was trying to conceive this baby. The baby was conceived. The way I work is I work with pregnant or preconception. We actually met the baby consciousness and would include the baby's consciousness in our sessions, 3-way, so that by the time we even got to conception, we were already really humming in a container field that could help support this baby coming in. This continued all the way through pregnancy. It was just a wonderful experience being with them as they became who they were together as this baby was coming in. Many, many conversations with the entity, the child's consciousness. The mother then contacted me that the baby had to be in the NICU when she was born. The mother said, I am so kind of filled with the whole 3D experience of trying to show up and nurse her and be there and go home and be with my other kids. I feel like I'm losing that higher connection with her. Could you help maintain that with her and help segue with me while she's in the NICU? So it became, for that next 3 to 4 weeks, every morning I would get up very, very early. I would go into meditation, contact the baby, just hold presence with her, ask her what she needed, how I could help. And then I would afterwards come back out and I would send a voicemail to her, to the mom, and she would listen to it in the car as she drove over to be with the baby all day. And then at night when she left, she'd leave me another message about what happened, what she noticed. Could you ask the baby this, etc. And that was what we did for 3 weeks. At one point, the baby, she said, she just doesn't seem herself. She seems agitated. She seems unsettled, and she's not doing as well. And so the next morning I went in and I checked, and sure enough, I could feel this warble with her. And I said, what's really important for us to hear? What do you want? What do you need support in? And she said, I need you to help remember who I am. She said, I'm losing who I am. I can't stay connected. Can you help me remember who I am? And I shared this with the mother, and she really understood it deeply. And so that day, she told me that night, she went in, and as she was nursing the baby, she just went very deep with her, and she looked her in the eye, and she said, I will help you remember who you are. I see you. I love you. I know you. And I will always seek to help you remember who you are. And she said she just softened right in that moment. And she started doing better in NICU. And soon thereafter, she came home. I've heard that so many times from babies that they really, you know, we always think of they want to be loved, seen, heard, supported, feel safe. And this, I think, is just absolutely at the top of the list as we're trying to help them bring in as much of their truer self. It's to help them remember who they are. And of course, that's also our journey of remembering who we are so that we can hold more of who they are. So this is my website, and this graphic just really holds the energy of my work now and where I love exploring and helping families. It's how do we awaken the light of the true self from the very beginning of life, and how do we very practically help babies from preconception forward bring and embody the most of who they are. You know, we used to think of being human beings stretching up to remember source and to reconnect. And in the last, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, and in the studies and the ways I'm working now, I really realize the way home to truly connect is by learning how to fully embody the soul, to fully embody the light of the true self into human life. And as we do that, we find the true home of our true self, that source within, that's united in unity consciousness with source of all. But instead of going out to try and reach for it, it is being totally and deeply embedded into the human experience. And of course, pre and perinatal, this is our how we're at the center of this. And somatic psychology, and embryology, and all these, we are at the center of leading the way of how do we help humanity reach our true self potential. So thank you again.
Φωτάζω φέγγον το κουνί, τα άστρα εξέβαν σ' ουρανόν, ημέρα ετελέθεν. Τα άστρα εξέβαν σ' ουρανόν, ημέρα ετελέθεν. Κύμαται ο λύκον σώρασιν, ή κατά σκύλων συναυλήν, και σεν καλλιόπον το γιαβρήν, γλυκαία θα κοιμάται. Και σεν καλλιόπον το γιαβρήν, γλυκαία θα κοιμάται. Έλα πουλί με λάρνην, έλα απλού απάνην, κλείσον το μάτι αστέμορφα, κύμα γιαβρήν σωιάνην. Κλείσον το μάτι αστέμορφα, κύμα γιαβρήν σωιάνην. Σον ύπνο σταρτανία εσένα προστατεύνε την ευλογία τη Θεού, σαν νερά σα φέρνε την ευλογία τη Θεού, σαν νερά σα φέρνε. Έλα πουλί με λάρνην, έλα πλούα πάνην, κλείσον το μάτια στέμορφα, κύμα για βρύμ σογιάνην, κλείσον το μάτια στέμορφα, κύμα για βρύμ σογιάνην.
As we draw the curtains on this momentous award ceremony, we find ourselves standing in the presence of pioneers who have illuminated the path to a deeper understanding of life's beginnings. Their unwavering dedication, relentless pursuit of knowledge, and the unselfish sharing of wisdom have not only enriched our understanding, but also sown the seeds of transformation. Gratitude, like a brilliant beacon, shines upon this occasion. It is the thread that weaves together our shared journey of discovery. Just as the pioneers have taken the torch of knowledge forward, we too hold the torch of gratitude, acknowledging their boundless contributions. Expressing gratitude is not merely a formality. It is an affirmation of the profound connection we share with those who have paved the way. It is a tribute to the tireless pursuit of truth that elevates us all. As we applaud these pioneers and their remarkable achievements, we are reminded that gratitude is an eternal circle. It returns to us, radiating positivity and igniting the spark of inspiration for the journeys yet to come. Let's leave this ceremony with hearts full of gratitude, for it is through this gratitude that we honor the past, celebrate the present, and inspire the future. With each step we take, let us remember that the path of gratitude is a path of growth, unity, and boundless possibility. Thank you for joining us in this celebration of pioneers' knowledge and gratitude. Together, let us continue to honor their legacy by embracing their spirit of discovery and gratitude in all that we do. Special thanks to Stathis, the young artist you can now see pinned on your screen. He is the artist student who has so warmly offered his artwork to be sent to each of the people who have been inducted in this Hall of Honor today, and yes, and also all the contributors, the committee of Hall of Honor that did all the administration work for today. Stathis is a very talented young man, exactly like Ina and Aeneas, who I believe all of us get touched when we see 15-year-old children, adolescents, behave and make choices that will honor all of us as adults. Special thank you to Dimitris Pharmakidis for all the beautiful work he has done from Norway together with Imbe and Siv. Thank you for that. And of course, our big thank you to Ray and Sandra, and then Jaap and Marty and Julie and Wendy and McCarthy. Remember that from tomorrow, the new era will start, and it will culminate on the 12th of November 2024, the birthday dates of Peter Fender Freiberg, a beautiful human being who is still with us, although his body is not. May the spirit of discovery and the flame of curiosity forever guide our way. Let's finish this with Rita Rickhoff songs.
Hi everyone, here from the Netherlands. I'm Rita, and I would have loved to be with you on closing this Hall of Honor. And to close it in a musical way, I sent Olga a recording of a song, and it will be played, but I'm not there. I'm singing a concert of the Hohe Messe of Bach this Sunday. I'm recording this message to you because I want to thank also Olga. And Olga, this beautiful, 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 beautiful bunch of flowers, it's for you. You deserve this. You are part of this pioneering and spreading the message, and I'm very glad I am part of you all, and this is the way to thank you, Olga, and thank you all. The song of the closing will be played, and I'm a little bit with you, but Bach I like also very, very much. Thank you, bye-bye from the Netherlands. Bye-bye.